Next up, a man who has more than 70 film and TV credits and a career that has spanned almost 40 years. From Stand By Me, A Few Good Men, A Dark City, to Twin Peaks, and of course, 24.
I have killed 2 people since midnight. I have not slept for over 24 hours. So maybe you should be a little more afraid of me than you are right now.
But for the past several years, Emmy-award winner Kiefer Sutherland has also been working on a series of very different videos, and this is his latest.
She whispers, baby, and baby, walk slow. And baby, don't go. Oh, no.
That's Bloor Street. The title track of his latest album, his third since 2016. He'll be performing March 8th at the City Winery. Kiefer Sutherland joined me the other day at the Boston Public Library to discuss. Kiefer Sutherland, it's great to meet you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So as a guy who spent his career, even when you were a kid, performing in front of a camera and a crew, was it not terrifying performing in front of a live audience the first time or the first 50 times?
Yeah, it was the great mistake that I made. I kept thinking that, you know, having a 30-some-odd year career in film, and on stage as an actor, that would somehow help me when I would go to perform these songs. The miscalculation was really simple. As an actor, you get to perform a character. You know, you showed Stand By Me. I was not Ace Merrill. I was Kiefer Sutherland playing Ace Merrill. I'm not Jack Bauer. I'm Kiefer Sutherland playing Jack Bauer. But the songs that I write are personal, and they're songs from my own life. And all of a sudden, I found myself incredibly exposed, if you will, telling people very kind of private moments of my life through these songs. And that was an adjustment. And there was a show that we did in Ann Arbor, Michigan at a wonderful little theater. And it was the first show that we had played where the audience was seated. And they weren't, you know, it wasn't a kind of dingy bar. And it felt more like a theater, and I felt more comfortable telling stories about why I wrote this song, and that maybe you might have kind of a similar experience in your life. And all of a sudden, the shows just became incredibly different and moving for me. You know, I wrote a song about the passing of my mother, and I explained what I had gone through. And then I saw, out of the corner of my eye, a woman put her arm around her friend, and obviously that woman had lost someone very close to them. And I started to get a sense of these kind of shared experiences that we were having, that obviously as an actor you can't have except through a character. And all of a sudden, this was much more personal. And so it became a real love of mine. And so we've done some 500 shows in the last 3 years leading up to the pandemic, and very excited to hopefully get back to it again.
You know, we've all heard that horrible shut up and dribble kind of thing when people don't like what an athlete has to say. Do you encounter shut up and act? I mean, you're great at something, do that, don't do this.
No, I have to be honest, people have been a lot more gracious than that to me, and I'm grateful for that. Look, I get it, you know. There have been a number of actors that have done music kind of as a kind of a one-off thing and just to kind of dab their toe into it. I take it more seriously than that. You know, it took me a long time to kind of accept that I even wanted to do this. I made my first 2 records with a wonderful artist named Jude Cole, who really had to kind of talk and walk me into this. But the second he started kind of recording some of the songs that we had written together, I loved the way that he made them sound. And again, I fell in love with touring. And so, you know, I've been very fortunate. The audiences that we've had have been fantastic. And one of the most exciting things is kind of to be at this point in my life, at this age, and learning something new and having something be as kind of refreshing and as exciting as it is. And it's informed everything else that I've done. When I went to go do Designated Survivor, a television show that we did 3 seasons of, there was a lot more of myself in that character, and I think that was a direct kind of relation to songwriting and feeling comfortable about expressing myself to an audience through music.
I love when you said learn something new at your age. I feel that way almost every single day when I learn. I can so relate to that, Kiefer. Let's talk about the CD for a minute, the album. I don't even know what you call them these days. The album, let's call it. Bloor Street.
I'm sticking with that. That's what I called them when I was a kid, and I'm going to stick to that.
Okay, so speaking of personal, that was a pretty important street. Obviously, a main drag in Toronto. Pretty important street in your life, right?
Very, very much so. In fact, I was doing Designated Survivor in Toronto, Canada, and I was walking around, and I grew up there, and I just kind of was struck. I came to the big main intersection in Toronto, which is Bloor Street, which runs east-west, and Yonge Street, which runs north-south. And I was looking at the four corners, and I realized that all of my firsts happened right here. The first job I ever had was in the Hudson Bay food court, right there. The first kiss I had was in front of the subway at Bloor Street, which was right there. The first time I think I got beat up was right on that corner. The first time I bust with a guitar was on one of those corners. And so I again, was just kind of overtaken with kind of nostalgia and a really warm feeling that at the age of 11 in Toronto, I could take the subway with my friends, and that was normal. Now, if I saw a kid on the subway, I'd think they were lost or something was wrong. So I was just really grateful, not only about the time that I got to grow up in, but where I got to grow up. And so the song is just really a nostalgic walk down kind of Bloor Street memory lane for me.
What'd you do at the Hudson Bay food court as a kid?
I worked at a place called Comacino's, which was a little Italian food kiosk. We made pizzas and chicken cacciatore. I worked the line there, and one of the most exciting things I ever got to do. The chef next to me was about 18 or 19. I was about 14. He was really good looking, so the line of girls around the corner was just extraordinary. And yeah, I had a great 2 years there.
So even though you're a Toronto kid for a decent part of your life, I read something that your favorite hockey player is Bobby Orr. Is that BS or is that real?
No. Bobby Orr. I got to meet Bobby Orr. We played a benefit hockey game for the Worcester firefighters in that terrible tragedy that happened almost, I think, maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I got to meet Bobby Orr that evening. I had an older brother named Tom, who was 7 years older than me. He was a great, great hockey player. I idolized him, and he taught me all the music that I loved came from him. And Bobby Orr was his favorite hockey player. So by the time I was 3, Bobby Orr was my favorite hockey player. And so the Boston Bruins. It's very funny, when I think of Bloor Street, I think Toronto has hosted many a Boston team on their way to greatness, only to kind of be pushed aside, whether it's, the Maple Leafs, the Boston Bruins are their great nemesis. And I think we have also had you as our guest on your way to a couple World Series championships.
I'm a Philly boy. Don't say we had you. I'm from Philadelphia, my friend. Can we spend a minute on the other half of your professional life? Let's do it by quiz, if you'll bear with me. What do John Lithgow, Jason Robards, and John Voight have in common, Kiefer Sutherland?
All of them are extraordinary, extraordinary actors.
Well, that is the wrong answer. Let me change the question.
Okay.
John Voight, John Lithgow, Jason Robards, and Kiefer Sutherland. What do they have in common?
Oh, my gosh.
Time is up. They all have or will play FDR. You're playing FDR in the Showtime thing with Gillian Anderson, who's one of my favorite people on the planet. What's that like? Have you ever played a real person before?
No, this was a first. And FDR, if you take a look at any interview that I ever gave with regards to Designated Survivor, I was often asked who my favorite American president was. And my answer was always FDR. And for so many different reasons. His ability to communicate to the American people 8 days after his presidency, to put their money back in the bank and trust the banks in the middle of the Depression was an extraordinary feat and economically saved the United States. The political prowess that he exhibited in navigating America's lack of desire to commit to World War II, and figuring out how to aid England in a time of incredible crisis was extraordinary. And in the context of the First Lady, his respect for his wife and her intellectual prowess and her political nuance was extraordinary in a time when most men kind of relegated women to second-class citizenship. And so I admired him for that. So for many reasons, I was honored to be able to have the opportunity to play the character, but also because I care so much about him, I did not want to fail. And I felt that the key to playing him was the voice. And that there were a lot of things that we could do physically that would bring us together. But he had such an interesting cadence and that kind of upstate New York, mid-Atlantic accent. Eleanor said that it would be possible if we were to entertain the African-American soldiers down in the South, that we would be able to work with them together. And as long as that voice was somehow intact, I felt a real harness of that character.
So if we go, which we will, March 8th to the City Winery, what are we getting?
Well, this is going to be, for a variety of reasons, a very stripped-down show. I'm going to start the show just myself with an acoustic guitar. I have two other guys that will come out. One is another guitar player. The other is a great pedal steel player. You know, I'm going to tell some stories. I'm going to explain why I wrote some of these songs. I'm going to play some of these songs, maybe raise a glass or two, and just have a kind of an evening getting to know you. I think that's the wonderful thing about the City Wineries, is that it's such a kind of casual atmosphere. You're going to get a great meal, and it's a place where I actually am very excited about doing a kind of much more intimate seated show, and I would love at the end of every one of the nights that we go out and play on this tour that it feels like we had a conversation.
It's great. As I told you, I listened to the CD for the first time last night. It is spectacular. Before you go, when was the last time you did an interview where you weren't asked about Jack Bauer?
Well, I would have to say that was probably since 2001.
You're welcome, Kiefer Sutherland. It's great to see you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Can't wait till the 8th. See you then.
Thank you so much, Jim. Absolute pleasure. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.